There's a silent trigger buried deep inside every woman, a fear she'll never admit even to herself. It's not the fear of being alone, it's something deeper. It's the fear of losing a man who knows his worth, a man who doesn't chase or beg, a man who quietly commands respect just by the way he moves through life. When you awaken that fear, everything changes. Her energy shifts her attention, locks onto you, and suddenly you're not just another guy hoping for her time. You become the man she can't stop thinking about, the man she doesn't want to lose. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to trigger her fear of losing you, why it works so consistently, and how to do it from a place of quiet confidence. Every single time, let's get into it. Number 1, live as if you're already. Live as if you're already whole. Whole, the most attractive men are the ones who don't need anyone to complete them, because they've already found completeness within themselves. Think about it when you live, like your life is already full, already meaningful, already rich with purpose. It sends a powerful message. You're not waiting for her or anyone else to bring meaning into your world. Your passions, your goals, your mission, they're what drive you. And when a woman senses that you're not looking to her to fill some empty space inside you, something shifts. That's when the fear starts to creep in. The fear of losing a man who doesn't need her. Why does this trigger such a strong reaction? Because deep down, people crave what's rare, and a man who's genuinely whole within himself is rare. Most people, men and women alike, are searching for someone to complete them, to validate them, to fill the silence in their life. But when you become the man who is at peace with that silence, who actually thrives in it, you instantly become different from the rest. You become someone who can't be easily replaced. The Stoics teach us that happiness, fulfillment, and peace don't come from the outside. They come from mastering yourself, from living according to your own values and principles. When you embody that mindset, you become unshakable. You no longer chase or cling to anyone. You're not afraid of her leaving because your sense of worth isn't tied to her presence. That quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, is exactly what makes her fear losing you. Let me put it this way. If you're constantly available, always eager to please, bending over backwards to keep her attention, she won't fear losing you because in her mind, she already has you. There's no challenge, no uncertainty, nothing to lose. But when you're the man who's fully immersed in his own path, who enjoys her presence but doesn't depend on it, she starts to realize that keeping you isn't guaranteed, and that fear, the fear of losing a man who's perfectly fine on his own, is what pulls her closer. Imagine this. You're a man who wakes up every day with purpose. You hit the gym, not because you want to impress anyone, but because discipline is part of who you are. You pursue your goals, not to show off, but because they matter to you. You have your own social life, your own hobbies, your own sense of adventure. Whether she's in your life or not, your world keeps turning. That's powerful, that's magnetic. And here's the truth, when a woman sees that, you could walk away at any moment and still be perfectly fine. It makes her realize that losing you isn't just losing a boyfriend or a partner. It's losing a man who stands out in a sea of men who cling and chase. It's losing the rare kind of man who has built his own kingdom with or without her. Number 2, let her see you choose peace over. Let her see you choose peace over drama. If she starts unnecessary arguments or throws emotional tests your way, don't get pulled into the trap. Don't chase, don't overly-explain, and definitely don't raise your voice to match her energy. Instead, just step back calmly and confidently. When you refuse to engage in the chaos, something powerful happens. She starts to wonder if you even care enough to fight. That's the moment. The fear creeps in, the fear that you might be slipping away, that maybe you're already halfway out the door. See, most guys react instantly when a woman stirs the pot. They take the bait, they argue you back, they scramble to fix things, thinking that's how you show you care. But all that does is show her you're too afraid to lose her. And when a woman senses that fear, her attraction starts to fade. Why? Because deep down, women are drawn to men who could walk away if they had to. Men who value themselves enough to protect their peace. Above all, Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that a wise man values his inner tranquility more than any external thing, including the approval of others, even the approval of a woman he cares about. Think about that when you prioritize your peace over proving a point or winning an argument, you're showing her something rare. You're showing her that you're not desperate for her validation. You're not ruled by emotions. And most importantly, you're not afraid to lose her. That's unsettling for her, and not in a bad way. It triggers her instinctive fear of losing a man who has options, a man who doesn't need her to feel complete. Imagine this. She sends you a long emotional text, accusing you of not caring, trying to drag you into a back and forth. Instead of matching her energy, you reply with something short and calm like, "I'm not going to argue with you. Let's talk when we're both calm." Then you go about your day like your peace isn't up for negotiation. That silence, that self-control is loud. It forces her to sit with her own thoughts, wondering why you're not fighting for her attention. And the more she wonders, the more valuable you become in her mind, because the man who doesn't chase the man, who can sit comfortably in silence, is the man she fears losing the most at the core of it all. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about showing her that your peace, your self-respect, and your sense of self come first when she sees that. She realizes you're not like most men, and that's exactly how you make her fear losing you. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever stayed calm when a woman tried to stir up drama? And did you notice how it shifted, the dynamic? Share your experience in the comments, or if you're keeping it simple, just drop this in the comments. My peace comes first. Let's see how many of you are committed to protecting your inner peace no matter what. Now let's move on to the next key move you need to make if you wanted to fear losing. Number 3, embrace the art of. Embrace the art of controlled absence. Controlled absence. Sometimes the best move is no move. Disappear just enough for her to feel it. Not ghosting, but giving her the gift of missing you. This isn't about punishment. It's about value. If you're always there, you're invisible. If you disappear, you become unforgettable. When someone knows you'll always answer, always show up, always be available at a moment's notice, there's no urgency to appreciate you. Why? Because you've become predictable. And human nature is wired to take what's predictable for granted. The only way to remind her that you're not a given, that you're a man who can walk away if necessary, is by stepping back, not with resentment, not with games, but with calm confidence. Knowing your value doesn't rely on her validation. This is where Stoicism becomes your secret weapon. Epicurus reminds us, he who is self-sufficient fears nothing. Think about that for a second. When you're not clinging, not chasing, not begging for her attention, you radiate a different energy, an energy of quiet strength. You're saying, without words, I'm good with you, but I'm also good without you. That mindset is rare, and when a woman feels it, it gets under her skin in ways you can't fake. And here's the part most guys miss. Controlled absence isn't just silence for the sake of silence. It's about creating space for her own mind to work against her. When you pull back, her imagination starts filling in the blanks. Is he losing interest? Is he talking to someone else? Did I do something wrong? That uncertainty, the fear of losing something she thought was secure, triggers a chase instinct in her. It's not manipulation, it's reality. We only truly value what we believe we could lose. If you're always within arm's reach, she never feels that edge. But if you step back just enough for her to notice your absence, you transform from someone she assumed would always be there into someone she could actually lose. And that changes everything. The beauty of this approach is that it's not reactive. It's intentional. You're not stepping back because you're angry or playing games. You're stepping back because you know your worth and you're giving her the space to recognize it too. If she doesn't, that's her loss. A Stoic man understands that his peace comes from within, not from being chosen. So if you want to trigger her fear of losing, you stop trying to convince her to see your value create space where she can feel it. Let her experience your absence and watch how her mind starts to work. Over time, to pull you back in the man who can walk away calmly without bitterness holds all the power. And that power doesn't just make her fear losing you, it makes her respect you, and respect is the foundation of real desire. Number 4, showcase, unapologetic. Showcase, unapologetic, self-respect. Self-respect. You set the tone for how you're treated. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's the reality of every relationship you'll ever have when you respect yourself. When you carry yourself like someone who knows their value, you automatically become rare. Why? Because most men out there are too afraid to upset her, too afraid to lose her, too afraid to draw a line in the sand and say, this is what I deserve. But you're different. You don't fear losing her. And that's exactly what makes her fear losing you. Here's the thing. When a man stands tall in his own worth, when he knows his value and refuses to lower his standards for anyone, it sends a very clear message. You're not desperate. You're not chasing. You're not bending over backwards to keep someone around who isn't meeting your needs. That confidence, that self-respect, it's intoxicating, it's rare, and anything rare instantly becomes valuable. A woman can feel it. She consents when a man respects himself so much that he's willing to walk away if he's not treated the way he deserves. And the moment she feels that you're willing to leave if necessary. The fear creeps in the fear of losing you. Not because you played a game, not because you manipulated her, but because you made it clear you're the kind of man who won't settle for less than he brings to the table. Think about it like this. Imagine 2 men in her life. One is always available, always saying yes, always adjusting to fit her world, even at the cost of his own self-respect. The other is centered calm and firm in his values. If she crosses a boundary, he addresses it calmly, directly, without anger, but without hesitation. She knows without a doubt that this man values himself enough to walk away if she stops valuing him, which man triggers her fear of losing him every single time. It's the second man, the one with unapologetic self-respect. A Stoic man understands that external validation, whether from a woman, society, or anyone else, is not the foundation of his worth. His worth is internal. It comes from how he lives, the principles he stands on, and the respect he has for himself. A Stoic man does not beg for attention or cling to anyone, because his inner peace is not dependent on anyone's approval. When you embody that mindset, you naturally become someone she doesn't want to lose, because you don't need her to feel complete. And remember, women are highly intuitive. They feel your energy before you even say a word. If you're walking around like a man afraid to lose her, she senses it, and it lowers your value in her eyes. But when you walk into every interaction with quiet confidence, knowing you'll be fine with or without her, she can't help but see you differently. That fear of losing you isn't something you force. It's something you create by the way you carry yourself, by the way you respect yourself, and by the way you refuse to compromise your standards just to keep her around. This isn't arrogance, it's self-respect, and self-respect is magnetic. A Stoic insight for you. Epicurus once said, "How long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself?" That's the energy you need to bring the best for yourself in your life, in your relationships, and yes, even in how you allow yourself to be treated by a woman. Demand the best, not with words, but by the way you live when you do. You won't need to trigger her fear of losing you, because that fear will already be there, quietly working in the background every time she looks at you and realizes you're a man who knows his worth. That's the kind of man she doesn't want to lose, and that's exactly who you can become. What about you? What does self-respect look like to you in a relationship? Ship, drop your thoughts in the comments below, or if you're all about that unapologetic self-respect life, just leave this in the comments. I won't settle for less. Now, let's move on to the next. Key point number 5, become a moving target. One of the biggest mistakes. Men, become a moving target. Mate is getting comfortable. It's easy to fall into that trap. You get into a relationship. Things feel good, and before you know it, you've stopped moving forward. You settle into routines. You lose a bit of that edge you had when you first met her. And without even realizing it, you've become predictable. Predictability kills attraction. The truth is, women are drawn to men who are in motion, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, financially. When a woman sees that, you're constant, constantly evolving, constantly chasing growth. A part of her can't help but wonder if one day you might outgrow her. That fear, that little bit of uncertainty, is what makes her value you more. It's human nature. We always treasure what feels just a little out of reach. Think about it. A man who's leveling up his career, challenging himself to learn new skills, staying in shape, expanding his mind and setting new goals for himself, becomes someone who is naturally attractive, not just to her, but to the world. You become someone she's proud to stand beside, but also someone she knows others are watching. That's the kind of silent pressure that triggers her fear of losing you. The Stoics understood this well. Heraclius famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." The river is always flowing, always changing, just like you should be. You're not the same man you were yesterday. And if you're living right, you won't be the same man tomorrow. That constant evolution doesn't just make you a better man, it makes you harder to replace. When a woman senses that you are always moving forward, she realizes that if she doesn't match your energy, someone else will imagine two versions of yourself. One who stays stuck, repeating the same days, the same habits, the same mindset, and the other version. The man who keeps moving, keeps sharpening his mind and body, keeps setting goals and reaching them. Which version do you think she's more afraid to lose? The man who's stagnant, or the man whose rare attraction isn't just about looks or charm, it's about being a man in demand. Even if that demand is driven by the respect you have for yourself. When you become a moving target, you shift the power dynamic. You no longer chase her. She starts to feel like she has to catch up to you. That's how you trigger her fear of losing you, not by begging for her attention, but by making it clear without words that your life is bigger than anyone. Relationship keep flowing. Like that river Heraclitus spoke of, when you live with that kind of purpose and motion. You don't just become a man. She fears losing you. Become a man she admires, respects, and desires. And the best part, you're doing it for you first. That's the core of Stoicism, mastering yourself, regardless of who's watching. Number 6, reveal your selective attention. Women crave attention, but they reveal your selective attention value, selective attention even more. See, the mistake a lot of guys make is thinking that by always being available, by constantly showing up, they're proving their worth. But the truth, when attention is too easy to get, it loses all value. It's like leaving the tap running. She stops noticing the water because it's always there. But when you show her that your attention isn't free, that you choose carefully where your energy goes, that's when things shift. Suddenly, your attention becomes something rare, something she can't take for granted. And with that comes a quiet fear, the fear that someone else could capture your focus if she doesn't step up. Imagine this. You used to text her, "Good morning," every day. always asking how her day was going, always available the second she needed you. Now you pull back, you don't disappear. That's not the move, but you become a little less predictable. Some mornings you text, some you don't. When she reaches out, sometimes you respond right away. Other times you take your time because you're actually focused on your own life. What happens next? She starts to wonder, why isn't he as eager as before, or is he losing interest? Is someone else getting his attention? That wondering, that uncertainty, that's where the fear of losing you starts to grow. The Stoics teach us a powerful truth. Your time is the most valuable thing you own. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose possessions and replace them. But time, once it's spent, it's gone forever. That's why a Stoic man guards his time like a treasure, giving it only to what and who truly deserves it. So when you become the kind of man who treats his attention like something precious, not free, she feels that shift. She knows you're a man who doesn't chase a man, who doesn't need to beg for her approval, a man who could walk away if he's not respected, because his time, his energy, his focus are too valuable to waste. That's where her fear of losing you gets triggered, when she realizes you're not just another guy willing to bend over backwards to please her. You're a man in control of his own attention. A man who understands that your value isn't in how much you give, but in how much you choose to withhold until it's earned. And when you live like that, you don't have to convince her to value you. She'll feel it, and that fear, it will come naturally, because losing a man who knows his value is a loss she won't want to face. If you've made it this far, it's clear you're serious about leveling up, not just in dating, but in how you value yourself. And that's exactly the mindset that sets you apart. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which part of this resonated with you the most. Or if you're about guarding your attention and making her earn it, just leave this sentence in the comments. My attention is a privilege, not a right. Let's keep the conversation going. Number 7, stand firm in your boundaries. If you fold, every time she crosses a line, you're sending her a silent message. You have no real lines. And the truth is, the moment she senses that a shift happens, she stops seeing you as a man she has to respect and starts seeing you as a man she can push. Attraction fades when respect disappears, but when you stand firm, when you show calmly and confidently that there are certain behaviors you will not tolerate, that's when something powerful happens. That's when the fear of losing you kicks in. This isn't about playing games or acting cold. It's about communicating your worth without saying a word when you walk away from disrespect. When you refuse to chase after being treated poorly, you instantly change how she sees you instead of a man. She can control you, become a man she could lose, and that uncertainty triggers fear. The fear of losing a man who respects himself enough to walk away is far more powerful than any argument or demand you could make. Imagine she disrespects you during a disagreement, maybe she raises, her voice starts calling you names or uses personal attacks just to hurt you. A man with no boundaries would either fight back or sit there taking it, hoping to fix it. But a man with self-respect and a clear sense of his value would respond differently. He would say, I'm not going to continue this conversation. If it's going to turn disrespectful when you're ready to talk with respect, we can continue, and then without drama, without yelling, he leaves that silence, that absence. That's where the fear creeps in, because suddenly she's faced with the reality that your presence is not guaranteed, that you don't fear her walking away because you know your value. And now she starts fearing your absence. Epicus taught us something. Every man in a relationship needs to remember, you do not control others. You only control yourself. Your actions, your standards, your reactions. Trying to control her behavior or force her to act a certain way is wasted energy, but controlling what you allow into your life. That's where all your power is. Your boundaries aren't there to punish her. They're there to protect your peace, your dignity, and your emotional well-being. They're not walls to keep her out there, a signal that says, I am a man who values himself enough to expect respect from myself first and from anyone who wants a place in my life. When you show that you're not afraid to lose her, when you stand calmly in your sense of self, you instantly become more valuable. She starts to see you as a man who could walk away at any moment if she takes you for granted. And the truth is, people value what they could lose far more than what they believe will always be there. No matter what the key is, consistency, you can't set a boundary once and then fold the next time. Just because you miss her or want to avoid conflict every time, you enforce your boundary with calm strength. You're showing her and yourself that you are a man who won't betray his own standards. For anyone, that kind of strength, that's magnetic. It's rare and it triggers both her respect and her fear of losing you. So if you want her to feel that fear, that sense that losing you is a very real possibility, it doesn't come from making threats, playing mind games, or trying to control her. It comes from being a man who knows what he's worth, who walks away from what doesn't align with his values, and who isn't afraid of losing someone who doesn't respect those values. That's how you trigger her fear of losing you, by becoming the kind of man she knows she can't replace. And that starts with the quiet power of standing firm in your boundaries. Number 8, radiate quiet. Radiate quiet confidence, not loud validation. Confidence, not loud validation. Confidence isn't in what you say. It's in how you carry yourself when you don't need to prove your worth. She feels it, and that confidence, quiet, effortless, it makes her question if she's enough for you. That's the fear. See, this isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate her emotions. It's about understanding something deeper. The natural dynamic between desire and uncertainty, when someone senses that you're completely secure within yourself, that you're not grasping for attention or desperate for validation, they start to wonder where they stand with you. That subtle shift from her feeling certain about your interest to suddenly questioning it. That's where the fear of losing you begins to creep in. The Stoics would remind us that the most powerful position you can hold is the one where your sense of worth doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. Marcus Aurelius didn't walk into a room and demand respect. His presence commanded it because he carried himself with purpose and clarity. You do the same when you focus on your path, your goals, and your sense of self when you're not constantly available, not bending over backwards to please her, but instead living your life with quiet confidence. She feels that space, and in that space, fear grows when you're too easy to predict, when you're always there at her beck and call. There's no urgency, there's no reason for her to feel like she could lose you. But when you have your own life, your own mission, and she realizes that you're choosing her, not needing her, it flips something inside her. She starts to see you as a man who could walk away if he's not respected or valued, and that's powerful. Maybe you've noticed it before. When you pull back a little focus on your own priorities, suddenly her texts come faster. She's asking where you are, why you're distant. That's not a coincidence. That's human nature. We value what we're afraid to lose. But here's the part most men miss. You can't fake this. You can't pretend to be detached while secretly obsessing over her every move. That inner calm, that emotional self-control, comes from actually believing that you'll be just fine with or without her. That's where Stoicism comes into play. It's the mindset of knowing that your happiness, your peace isn't in her hands, it's in yours. Epicurus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The same applies to your confidence with women when you want less, when you don't crave her approval, her attention, her constant reassurance. You become more valuable not just to her, but to yourself. So if you really want to trigger her fear of losing, you start with this live like a man who knows his worth. Walk into every interaction knowing that your presence is a gift, not a plea for validation. Focus on your purpose, your growth, your inner peace, and let her feel what it's like to stand next to a man who doesn't need her, but chooses her as long as she respects what he stands for. That fear, the fear of losing a man who's rare, who's grounded, who's in control of himself, that's the fear that keeps her drawn to you. And the beauty is, it's not a trick, it's who you've become. Number 9, master. The balance. Master. The balance between desire and detachment. Between desire and detachment. Here's the ultimate key: desire her, but never need her care, but not so much that you lose yourself in the process. It's this tension, wanting her but not fearing her absence, that keeps her on edge. This is where you start triggering her fear of losing you. When a woman senses that you desire her, that you see her, appreciate her, and even crave her presence, but at the same time, you carry yourself like a man who could walk away without hesitation if she ever disrespects you or takes you for granted. It creates a powerful shift in the dynamic. That subtle uncertainty makes her mind race. She starts to wonder, what would life be like? Like if he suddenly disappeared, could I really replace him? Women aren't drawn to men who cling or chase endlessly, because there's no sense of value there. But when you show her you care, while also making it clear through your actions that you are perfectly fine on your own, that's when her fear of losing you starts to wake up. The moment she realizes you could live without her, her desire to keep you grows. Think of it like this. A man who practices Stoicism knows that everything in life, even love, is fleeting. The Stoics teach us that we should appreciate what we have, but never depend on it for our happiness. You desire her, but you don't let that desire chain you. You can enjoy her presence, but your sense of peace, your sense of self remains untouched. That mindset is rare and it's irresistible. Imagine you're planning a weekend together, but something comes up and she cancels. Last minute, most men would sulk, complain, or try to reschedule immediately. You accept it calmly, almost indifferently, and fill your time with something meaningful. Hitting the gym, spending time with friends, working on your goals. You show her not with words but with your energy, that your world doesn't revolve around her. That quiet strength plants a seed of doubt in her mind. What if you find someone else who values you more? What if you simply decide not to come back? The key is to embody this without playing games. It's not about faking indifference or pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely understanding your own worth when you carry yourself like a man who respects his time, his energy, and his peace. You naturally trigger her fear of losing you because she knows you're not the kind of man who begs for love. You are the kind of man who chooses love, but only when it adds to your life, never when it costs you your dignity. So remember, care for her, appreciate her, desire her, but never need her like a stoic warrior. Love with all your heart, but always be ready to walk away with all your strength. That's the energy that makes her fear losing you. Because deep down she knows men like that don't come around often at the end of the day. The conclusion, fear of losing you, doesn't come from manipulation games or chasing validation. It comes from becoming the kind of man who doesn't fear losing anyone when you live with purpose. Stand firm in your values and carry yourself with quiet confidence. You naturally shift the dynamic. You go from being someone hoping to be chosen to someone who knows his worth, whether she sees it or not. That's the real lesson here. Your value doesn't come from how much you give or how hard you try to prove yourself. It comes from the way you respect yourself, protect your peace, and refuse to compromise your standards just to hold on to someone. The Stoics teach us that everything, external relationships, attention, even love, is beyond our control. What we do control is how we show up, how we carry ourselves, and how much we value our own time and energy. And when you master that, you become the man she doesn't want to lose, because men with that level of self-respect are rare. So ask yourself, are you living as the kind of man who commands respect and attention just by the way you move through life? If not, the work starts with you, not with her. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these strategies resonated with you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you got value from this video, make sure to hit that like button to let me know. Also, stick around and check out the recommended videos on screen. They'll take you even deeper into mastering your mindset, your relationships, and becoming the man who never has to beg for attention because your presence speaks for itself. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.